Hello everyone, before this video starts, I would appreciate if you guys would leave a like and subscribe, since your support means the world to me and allows me to make these types of videos. Now let's get into the video. The kids' TV show I was in as a child was cursed. I've been forced to entertain my town ever since. At 12 years old, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I became a local child star in a town full of psychopaths. I won't say it was my conscious decision. Mom had been pushing for me to attend auditions since I was a preschooler. It was obvious from a young age that my mother wanted me to be on TV. Instead of toys, she bought me a camera to film my own movies and started a private social media account documenting my progress. But I was still a kid. I wanted to play outside with my friends, not drive for 4 hours out of town to an audition for a kids commercial. I made it clear I had no interest in being on TV. Even if it looked cool, the idea of being in front of a camera made me kind of nauseous. However, my mother was pretty dead set on me becoming a child actor when preteen and teen productions started airing on local TV. The TV studio in town was fairly new, expanding local shows to all demographics. Think of it like a bootleg Disney. The owner was an unknown Korean billionaire who, instead of setting his sights on larger cities, decided to build a kids' TV studio right in the middle of our coastal town, which ironically became the heart. This post would be a cry out for help if our town existed. To you guys, we're nothing, just a blip in the middle of nowhere. You won't be able to find us or the shows, and that's why I'm fucking terrified. The new studio was built on top of an old cemetery. Initially, townspeople protested until the owner poured money into the town itself, buying a new academy for the high school and personally paying for every senior college tuition. This guy clearly wanted our town, and he would do anything to get it. Bright Smiles Studios, which is an ironic name considering what they are presently. Anyway, they had surprisingly good TV. Their productions were original and fun, like Nickelodeon with a lower budget. One of my favorites was called The Pirate King, a live-action game show where contestants would have the chance to become mini swashbucklers under the guidance of the starry-eyed Pirate King. That was the only show I wouldn't mind being on, but it was impossible to get an audition. We did try, but no matter how many strongly worded emails my mother sent the director, begging him to give me a chance, it was always a polite no. The main young crew members had already been established, so I had zero chance. With the Pirate King being their most popular show, local kids either needed connections to become a contestant or wealthy parents. I had neither, so I became a casual viewer, tuning in every Saturday morning to watch my favorite swashbucklers causing havoc. The Pirate King ran for 3 years before being abruptly pulled off air for seemingly no reason. I thought it was a dud at first. Instead of showing new episodes of The Pirate King, they played the local news instead. Mom suggested they were taking a break, so I went to look for older episodes. But they were gone. I strictly remembered watching the previous week because Jinx, my favorite character, severed the head of the evil statue controlling the contestants. I remembered pausing halfway through to freak out, trying to show Mom, but that week's episode was gone too. I waited a whole week for the Pirate King. We were left on a cliffhanger with the kid crew becoming official members and crowned with their pirate hats. Them becoming an official part of the crew had been an ongoing plot point for a while as the show found its footing, slowly becoming more of a drama with scripted lines. I wasn't interested in the game show aspect. I wanted to know more about the world. Topper and Jinx started as stowaways, and Leia was a princess from the City of Diamonds. For a game show, the story easily pulled me in. The adventures of 4 young stowaways joining the dreaded Pirate King's group. They had come so far, and I could tell the Pirate King had taken a liking to them. Every episode, he started with a question. Will my 4 friends become official members of the starry-eyed crew? He paused, playfully pushing Topper to walk the plank. Or will it be over for them? And after 2 years of waiting, we were going to get our answer. The last episode ended with Jinx, Topper, and Leia kneeling on board their ship. The Pirate King made them take the pirate oath, gifting them with their own starry eyes. And with a nod and wink at the camera, he announced his new crew. Asterisk, join us next week where we meet a whole new group of young pirates. The camera zoomed into the crowd of contestants, while the main crew members waved at the camera with wide smiles. I knew their starry eyes weren't real, but they looked so cool. I never got to know what happened next because the show went off air. Bright Smile Studios issued a statement claiming the 4 main crew members had come into contact with a mysterious illness. I thought it was the flu, though Mom told me they were very sick. Apparently, during filming, the kids fell into the water and contracted some kind of bacterial infection. I was already skeptical as a curious 8-year-old. I could understand one of them getting sick, but all 4? At the same time? The Pirate King ended with no satisfying conclusion, not even a scene with the kids being real pirates. Saturday morning TV became boring. The studio tried to bring in copycat replicas, but neither of them were good enough. There was a game show with a similar concept, but instead of pirates, it was spies. It was for older kids, so there was a lot more drama. But again, it wasn't the Pirate King. We had all grown up with Topper, Jinx, Leia, and Bellamy, so losing them was jarring. Without their familiar F-toppers on our screens every Saturday, the kids in my town slowly started to lose interest. I was semi-watching the spy show until the main leads died in an explosion, escaping their evil parents. In reality, the 2 left for college, abandoning their contracts. Mom tried to get me to audition for that show, but you had to be at least 15. Eventually, even Spy Children devolved into another generic game show. I got bored and watched SpongeBob on cable instead. For my 12th birthday, Mom surprised me with an audition for a brand new production. Cabbage Patch was Bright Smile Studios' latest attempt at making another Pirate King. This time for older kids, the age range for applicants was 11 to 13. I had seen advertisements and casting calls all over town. Mom didn't tell me, but she had already signed me up and received a call back. So instead of presents and birthday cake, I was being dragged to the other side of town for an audition I was barely interested in. The whole thing was a full-day process. The first round of auditions in the morning were part of a group. I had to stand in a line with a group of kids and speak the lines on a crumpled piece of paper. Then we had lunch, and Mom ran off to grab snacks from the convenience store. The other applicants had already made friends, and the only kid who talked to me had thrown up from nerves and was cut from the process. So that left me standing in the main reception area, trying to force down a candy bar. Mom bought me 3 candy bars, a can of soda, and a gas station sandwich. Then she left me to join the other parents in a separate waiting room, which left me and my shitty tuna mayo sandwich against the world. The room with the rest of the applicants was too loud, so I ventured into the main visitors reception. There were posters of all of the studio's works, with the majority being their most popular. I was admiring a huge framed photo of the Pirate King himself when the door opened and then slammed shut. I caught a shadow striding toward the automatic doors before freezing in place. "Luke!" The woman at the desk peered over her laptop, her tone a warning. "Don't go wandering, young man." "I'm not," the shadow grumbled, and I twisted around. I wasn't expecting to see Jinx from the Pirate King. The guy was a high school kid at this point, 16 or 17 years old. He looked different from his kid's self, taller, dark brown hair poking from a baseball cap. His present attire, a short-sleeved shirt and shorts, transformed him into a normal teenager, no longer a shipmate. On the Season 1 poster behind him, Jinx was a 6-year-old swashbuckler with a laughing grin. This guy resembled an average kid with a video game addiction. His behavior, though, was odd. It was weird, like watching an episode of Animals Do the Funniest Things. Jinx acted like a predator closing in on prey. He moved slowly, almost like a Pink Panther skit, taking long strides across the room. When he was caught, the woman shooting him a warning look, the junior pirate held up his hands in mocking surrender. But he didn't give up. After studying her movements and waiting for the exact moment her attention was caught, he tried again. This time, almost like a cartoon, lunging into an abrupt sprint. He made it halfway towards the automatic doors before, "Luke!" Jinx stopped, freezing in place. "What are you doing?" The woman let out an exasperated sigh, slamming the space bar. "Do you want attention?" "No," the boy muttered. "Good," she said, going back to her screen. "I know it must be extremely hard not to be annoying, but I'm sure you can find a way to entertain yourself." The woman sighed. Where is Evie? Jinx blew a raspberry. Don't know. Don't care. After eyeing the elevator behind her, the guy gave up, leaning against the wall by the exit with his arms folded, a sleek pair of Ray-Bans shading his eyes. I half wondered if he was hiding his starry pupils. It was a nostalgia trip just being in his presence. Reality hit, though, and I reminded myself the Pirate King was fiction. Jinx was just a kid. Still, though, he was looking pretty good for someone who had supposedly contracted a deadly disease. I couldn't help myself, making my way over to him in hesitant strides. Excuse me, I didn't mean my voice to squeak. Jinx was like my childhood hero. He made me realize I could be a pirate too if I set my mind to it. Jinx revealed in Season 2 that he suffered from ADHD, and the whole episode was dedicated to proving that kids with colorful brains could be pirates too. I was diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 7, so Jinx's speech really hit me. Obviously, the content was kid-friendly, with the usual life lessons coming into play, but it was a rush to see a kid just like me, defeating the bad guys and saving the crew. Jinx highlighted his struggles with concentration, especially when fighting, telling the audience, "Sometimes my brain is too loud." When the Pirate King was kidnapped along with the rest of the kids, Jinx had no choice but to believe in himself, accept his brain was beautiful in its own way, and save the day. And he did, managing to take out the bad guy of the week, single-handedly saving his crew. Until then, I saw my ADHD as a weight suffocating my chest. In school, ADHD meant I was different, but Jinx taught me I was more than that. I was a special kind of pirate. That's what I wanted to tell the guy, but my words twisted up. Jinx was all I could say. From the Pirate King? The kid plucked off his Ray-Bans, and I swore I caught the slightest sparkle in his iris. Just like in the show, like his eyes were filled with starlight. I started to get giddy, already choking on what I was going to ask him. Did he ever become a pirate? Why did the show end? What disease was he sick with? But the one burning question that had been driving me mad since the cancellation managed to slip out of my mouth before I could choke it back. What do your starry eyes mean? I didn't realize I was yelling until the woman working at the desk told me to hush. Jinx lazily dragged his gaze to me like I was a specimen in a jar. Instead of answering, the kid's gaze snapped to the candy bars in my hand, his lips curving into a smirk. He scoffed, and something in me snapped in two. The pirate was looking at me like the kids in my school. Jinx cocked his head, mocking his character's smile. Geez, don't you have enough candy, Chubs? He laughed loudly, and I felt my entire world crashing down. I had been struggling with my weight for a while. I never thought my favorite pirate would point it out so cruelly, too. Do not meet your heroes. I was paralyzed, my mouth still frozen in a grin. I'm a big fan. I kept talking, choking on words flying out of my mouth, and I hated myself for it. I hated him for looking down at me like I was worthless. Jinx nodded, his eyes going skyward. Cool, he said dismissively. I tried again, getting progressively more choked up. You were my favorite pirate. I'm not a pirate, Chubs. He slipped his glasses back on. Luke, the woman scolded, you cannot blame Nibiru for your attitude. I'm not blaming Nibiru, Jinx retorted, knocking the back of his head on the wall with a groan. Can't you see I'm talking to my adoring fan? He said fan like spitting venom with a giant dollop of sarcasm. I felt my cheeks going scarlet, my eyes filling with tears. The woman sighed, her gaze glued to her laptop. Be nice to the kid, or you're going back into queue, young man. Your choice. Jinx groaned, jumping up and down on his heels. For a 17-year-old, he was acting like a child, settling me with a patronizing smile at Cole. The boy was suddenly bursting with energy, as if he'd just inhaled helium, jumping in front of me like a cartoon character. Oh, I'm so glad you like the show, he said, forcing a painful grin, reminiscent of his pirate self. That's like, super great. Have a fun-tastic day, all right? Don't do drugs. Drugs bad. I must have looked on the edge of breaking into sobs when Jinx's demeanor softened. Do you believe in gods, kid? He asked in a low murmur. His question took me off guard. Like Medusa? Jinx scrunched his nose up. No, you idiot. Geez, you're like too stupid to function. I mean, like actual gods. Luke, stop being a dick. Topper, another member of the Pirate King crew, was standing in the doorway. The last time I saw Topper, he was a prepubescent little kid giggling at the camera. This guy was hunched over in a sweatshirt and jeans, hiding under blondish curls. Like Jinx, he didn't suit modern-day clothes. I preferred him in his pirate costume. Unlike Jinx, Topper didn't have starry eyes. His smile wasn't exactly friendly, more of a quirk of amusement. Still, at least he wasn't being an asshole. There was something in his face I wasn't sure I was allowed to see. Darkness, evident in shadowed eyes and pale cheeks. Jinx and Topper had been sick, but this was different. Deeper, like something had twisted them inside out. Luke ignored his pirate crewmate, shaded eyes on the ceiling. "The kid doesn't belong here," he grumbled. "You of all people should know that." Ouch. Two members of my favorite pirate crew were confirming my worst insecurities, and somehow I couldn't move. But I didn't even want to be on TV. I didn't mean for my voice to break, anger and pain twisting in my voice. It was my mom's idea to bring me today. Then leave. Jinx didn't look at me, though I caught urgency in his tone. "Fucking run!" Topper nodded to me, pulling his hood over his curls. Luke is being an asshole as usual. He shot the other boy a pointed glare. But he's right. Gesturing to the door, his lips formed a small smile. "If you don't want to be here, kid, I want you to walk out of that door and don't turn back." His eyes darkened. "Run." Topper repeated Jinx's words, and it was the plea in his words, the slight twist in his lip that was trying to scream, but kept collapsing into a smile. That is what sent me backing away. Jinx and Topper were both telling me to get out in their own way, and I was slowly starting to notice the slight glint in their eyes. They were scared. Topper kept shooting glances at the woman behind the desk, Jinx inching toward the door. Topper's eyes reminded me of staring directly into a starless sky, a vacancy that had aged him way beyond 17. They were scared, I thought, glancing at the mysterious woman behind the desk. Of her. I thought she worked at the studio, but the more I caught the boy's frantic eyes, as well as Jinx's strange behavior when I met him, trying to Pink Panther his way towards the door without being caught. This woman was a guard. Something ice cold crept down my spine, phantom bugs filling my mouth. What did she say to Jinx again? "Hey, Chubbs!" As if the kid was reading my mind, Jinx lifted his head, gesturing toward the door. "Go!" I did my best to nod before I backed into something warm and smelled overwhelmingly of my mother's perfume. "How dare you talk to my son like that?" Mom's voice came from behind me, her tone startlingly cold. Mom pushed past me, ignoring my attempt to stop her. "I don't care who you are," she spat at the two of them. "You're a pair of washed-out ex-child actors who haven't been relevant in a long time." She laughed, and I wanted to bury myself in the ground. She ignored my attempt to drag her away. "And you have the audacity to speak to my son like that." Mom gently tugged away from me, using her stern tone. Let go of me, honey. These kids need to be taught a lesson." I could already hear her voice breaking. Mom was seconds from crying, and the two pirates were barely paying attention to her. She stepped forward. "How dare you tell my child he is not good enough?" Ma'am." The guard spoke up, only for Mom to cut her off. "Look at you," she scolded the two guys. "I remember you when you were little kids." Mom made a wet-sounding, sputtering noise. "Oh, how the mighty have fallen." Mom folded her arms like she'd won. "I don't know why you're smiling," she spat at Jinx. "You should be ashamed of yourselves. Two unsuccessful brats bullying my child." Jinx surprised me with a harsh laugh. "You've got no idea what you're talking about, lady." His tone darkened. His lips curled into a smirk. "In fact, do you want to know the real reason behind our cancellation?" Mom shrugged. "You were clearly big-headed." Jinx winked. "Nah, it's a little crazier than that." "That's enough, Luke." The female guard stepped in. "Go to the queue room." Her gaze flicked to Topper. "Both of you." "Wait, what did I do?" Topper demanded. "He was the one being a dick." Jinx laughed bitterly. That's rich. Throwing me under the bus as usual, Topper? Topper's eyes narrowed. It's Ace! He twisted to the guard. It's not my fault Luke's got the C in his head. The other boy scoffed. At least he speaks to me, and I'm not even 20 yet. That's not a good thing, Topper snapped back. Don't argue, Q room. The woman pointed at the door. Now, Mom nodded, satisfied. Exactly what these bullies need, she said. A well-needed timeout. Topper made the mistake of rolling his eyes, and my mother blew up. Luckily, I managed to grab her, pulling Mom away. I'm reporting the two of you, Mom shrieked. And to think children actually looked up to you. Oh, please do, Jinx said, the guard striding over to the two of them, grabbing both pirates like they were her own children. Jinx tried to snatch his arm away with an uncharacteristic hiss. I could tell from the way Topper was wincing, the woman's grasp was a little too tight. She marched them over to an elevator, the two of them stumbling with her. Get off of me, Jinx gritted out. I can walk on my own. When the door between us slammed shut, I caught the latter of Jinx's words. Report us all you want, lady, he yelled. Ow, that hurts. You can't stop me from... The boy shouted something unintelligible, his voice collapsing into angry muffle yelling. After whatever that was, I wasn't sure I could continue my audition like nothing happened. Mom ruffled my hair and gave me a hug. Ignore them, she said, cupping my cheek. You're going to be great, Wen. The second part of the auditions were individual ones. I stood in front of a panel of 4 adults, stumbling my way through my lines. Mom told me I did so well. I wasn't sure about that. 3 days went by, and Mom got a call while I was watching TV. I got the part of Dex. I mean, that's what I guessed. There was no other reason why she would be trying to cartwheel across the kitchen. I thought it was a joke, but nope. The producers of Cabbage Patch and the mayor, who had a little too much creative control, wanted me to come for a chemistry read with the other kids. Cabbage Patch was like a kid's version of Friends. 5 friends living together in a colorful house. The show was primarily for young teenagers, so there was an educational aspect. After reading lines with the other 4 chosen kids, I was given the role of Dex, the middle school dropout. Cabbage Patch was filmed on a mock set in Bright Smile Studios, and it became my second home. I was there from 7, 12 every weekday and Saturday morning. It was fun to film. It was basically a never-ending party surrounded by cameras. We were given candy and sugar to hype us up, and were encouraged to act as crazy as possible. Think of Friends, but it's a colorful kids sitcom with educational aspects. As the middle school dropout, I was usually the instigator for the rainbow sprinkle parties. Cabbage Patch quickly became more popular than the Pirate King, with kids across town turning into the local channel every weekend to watch us throw food and learn about friendship. Mom was convinced I was a local celebrity. It did feel like it. The kids at school wanted me to shout my catchphrase, "What's going on here? Cabbage Patch party," every time I stepped into class. For a while, I was on the top of the world. Fast forward 4 years, however, I was starting to understand why the Pirate King boys told me to run. I was 15 years old, sitting in an adult club opposite the mayor of all people. I had lost all my baby fat, and I could finally look at myself in the mirror without wincing. Puberty had been good to me, but I never forgot Jinx's nickname, Chubbs. By now, I was fully aware our beloved mayor was more corrupt than a fucking dictator. Next to me, Harry, a member of the Cabbage Patch gang, was completely out of it. His head of red curls nestled on my shoulder, half-lidded eyes skating the ceiling. I met Harry as a bright-eyed 13-year-old obsessed with Pokemon. I nudged him, and he made a groaning noise. I was already uncomfortable in a club full of adults. Boys! The mayor cleared his throat, sliding over a baggie of white powder. Harry leaned forward, sliding over the baggie with his index. I didn't even know he was conscious. Thank you. I lost Harry when our director encouraged us to take cocaine to exaggerate the zaniness of Cabbage Patch. He was fired, of course, but the damage was already done. I had lost my friend to constant paranoia, breakdowns, and sudden, abrupt bursts of energy. Harry was the best person ever when he was high, and a tyrant on a come-down. In a town that clearly did not give a fuck about its kids, Harry's problem was ignored. The mayor coughed promptly, jumping to his feet. I had a feeling there was another reason for our meeting. He would send an assistant if he was just handing over drugs. I was never here. Harry laughed, offering the man a two-fingered salute. Aye, aye, Captain. I got home that night coming face to face with my mother. When? She folded her arms. You stink of cigarette smoke. I was studying late, I lied. With Harry, I shrugged. He smokes. Her expression brightened. Any mention of Cabbage Patch made her smile. I wondered what she would say if I told her I was in secret detox. Well, get some sleep, she said. You have a recording in the morning. Mom kissed my forehead and I mumbled at her to go away. That was the last time I ever spoke to my mother. Our last normal Cabbage Patch recording was mundane as usual. I wasn't a fan of my costume for that day. Neon pants and a bright yellow shirt. Iris was talking to me about something, her girlfriend maybe. I wasn't fully listening. I think she was talking about her outfit, another colorful explosion. And the four of us were squeezed together on the couch for the opening shot, and I was staring dazedly at a new light situated in front of us. It was too bright, too invasive, like invisible tendrils poking at my eyes. What's that? I nudged Harry on my left, who was still on a come-down. We were getting better, but Harry was already addicted, already going out every night for his next fix. He was a coked-up mess. The local Gazette was going to have a field day with him. Dunno, Harry responded in a dull murmur. Pulling his knees to his chest, he made a snorting noise. I think it's to make us more zazzed. His eyes lazily rolled to me, and he winked. Since Coke is Dad, like Obs? I could see so much of Jinx the pirate in him. Not exactly a good thing. They're called concentration lights, Iris murmured, for Harry clearly. Harry nudged her with a laugh. You love me. The girl shuffled away from him. You smell like Coachella. Is he still using? Matthew twisted around, whipping off his rainbow glasses. I didn't reply, Harry muttering for the boy to shut the fuckity-fuck up. And I should have been paying attention to Harry's behavior. The way he couldn't keep still, the slightly manic look in his eyes, his lips slowly curling into a grin, dead eyes settled on the camera. Action, one word, one light bright enough to blind me. We began our opening friendship song as usual, but once my vision had cleared, my body wasn't working the way it should. At first I thought I was having a seizure or a stroke. My body stiffened up, the left side of my face drooping. The world went deathly silent apart from a single ringing sound, like a coin rattling in my skull. Then, pain. It hit me in writhing waves, first across the back of my head, creeping down my spine, an invisible monster clawing into my skull. Something wet, something ice cold, was running down my chin. Blood. It was all over my hands, soaking the front of my shirt. My body moved like it wasn't mine, my neck snapping into place. I looked directly into the light, hypnotized by its beauty. Dropping onto the ground on my hands and knees, I was straddling something warm, a moving form that kicked and screamed beneath me, an animalistic shriek rattling my skull. But I shut it up, grabbing its shoulders and slamming its head into the floor. The moving form didn't have a face. I only felt its warmth. Giddy, I ran my fingers across the surface of their skin and then plunged my fingers through, using my teeth to get deeper and deeper until that warmth was in my mouth, slithering wetness dripping and caught between my teeth. Sound returned slamming into me. I was screaming. No, I was laughing. My mouth was full of something wet, something mushy and hard to swallow, but I kept eating, gnawing into warm, slithering jelly that squelched at the back of my throat. I was aware of panic around me, but it only motivated me to dive to my feet. I started forwards, giggling, waving my hands in front of me, grasping slithering sausages. In the corner of my eye, Iris was standing on the couch, bouncing up and down, half of her own face clenched between her nails, her lips spread out into a skeletal grin. Her movements excited me. I wanted to join her. But I also wanted to hide what was in my fist. It was mine. Crawling onto my stomach, I remember feeling like a wiggly worm. I stuffed the warmth into my mouth, joining in with the others' squawks. It was a game for us, the others trying to snatch pieces of flesh from my fists. In reality, I had chewed through half of the camera guy. His brains stained my hands. I started towards our mayor who, to my confusion, barked at the cameras to keep rolling. "This is it," he said through gasping breaths. "This is enough." His eyes went skyward, lips stretching into a cry of mania. "Is this what you want, Nibiru?" he demanded. "Instead of our children?" Half conscious, I grabbed him by the neck, sinking my teeth into her flesh. She tasted so good, laughing, her giggles turning to gurgles. "Now this," he declared, when I dug my teeth in further. Harry was dead, his trembling body still writhing, his jaw moving like he was still eating, gnawing on thin air. Iris's head was there 1 minute and gone the next, spraying me in scarlet. Matthew was a pile of wriggling mush on the ground. "This is what he wants." Our director's half-lidded, mutilated eyes were on me. And sobering up, I became aware of what I was doing. What I had done and why Jinx and Topper told me to fucking run. It's been 2 years since Bright Smile Studios officially declared ownership of me. Nibiru, a god I didn't even know existed, has been pulling the strings since the start. My town has been subtly giving him children through the years, in the form of contestants on Bright Smile Studios shows. But then he demanded the 4 members of the Pirate King's crew. I watched it on TV. What I thought was a fictional bit, I was witnessing them pledge themselves to the Pirate King, Nibiru. Our town told him he couldn't have them, and that's why we're here, presently. I haven't seen my mom in 3 years, and the sky above our town turned dark 6 months ago. The real world continues as normal, and we are stuck in endless, suffocating shadow. A giant pirate ship sits in the center of our town. We're told to ignore it, but I mean, who could ignore something like that? We're not allowed outside for our safety, but I only see hell through my windows. I see crowds of people brainwashed by a god whispering in their heads. I'm told to plug my ears, but I can still hear him. His voice carries in an invisible wave, crashing into my mind. Cabbage Patch is now the only source of entertainment for the Pirate King himself, the newly appointed Jinx, who was crowned 7 months ago. There was 0 point in trying to hide the pirate crew from Nibiru. He found them and filled their eyes with stars. Now we are under their rule. 4 ex-local child stars given godlike abilities. God help us. Cabbage Patch has been twisted into a psychotic game. Instead of ending with our friendship is magic song, we are forced to brutally eat sacrifices for Nibiru. The worst part is, he just brings them back whenever he likes. So nobody really fucking dies. It's not like we can control this. Whatever that light was, mixed with drugs, it turned us into something no longer human, a god's executioners. Thankfully, I don't remember most of it. We call it zazzing. We start the song, zazz out, and wake up covered in blood. During our first zazzing, most of us died. Harry from blood loss, Iris's head blew up, and Matthew's body turned to jelly. I can vaguely remember choking up mangled pieces of my own lungs, only to wake up 2 days later with nothing but a bad migraine. To this god, we are dolls made of flesh and blood, dancing on strings. I tried to get in contact with Mom, but I can't leave the studio. The mayor told me to not even try. If not, I would be volunteering myself to Nibiru. Except last night I broke down. I needed to find my mom. I'm used to being covered in someone else after a recording. Their remains stain me, and I feel every single person ingrained into my skin. Blood doesn't even feel real anymore. It's like being covered in gunk. After showering, I headed down to the main reception area. The guard behind the desk was reading a scrappy copy of Metamorphosis. I started toward the door slowly, holding my breath. "Excuse me?" I froze. The voice was a little boy standing behind me. Deja vu hit like ice-cold water. "Dex!" The boy wasn't smiling. His eyes were hard, mouth twitching into a scowl. "Why did you destroy our town?" I was so fucking tired, and this kid was staring at me like I was a murderer. Well, in his eyes, I was. "My name is Wen," I grumbled. "Get out of here, kid." He folded his arms stubbornly. "I want to join Cabbage Patch," he said, "so my mom and little sister will be safe." "Aren't you like 8? I said dryly. "1.5. Instead of responding, I took the kid's shoulders gently. what I wish Jinx had done with me. I marched him over to the door and shoved him through the two guards blocking my way. But I managed to catch a slither of the outside. Iris and Harry joined me, the two of them, freshly out of the shower. I think that they were looking for their parents too. We pressed our faces against the door, peering into the dark. There was a thick fog in the air, a crowd standing on the streets, and among them was my starry-eyed mother. She was like a zombie, her head tipped back, wide, moonlit eyes on the sky. I tried to get to her, but the others dragged me back. "It's not worth it," Iris told me. Harry punched me in the face, hard enough to knock me out. I didn't blame him. I was so close to stepping outside. I woke up maybe 20 minutes ago. Harry has an old iPad he's been using to play Genshin, but he's crashed. It has the internet, so this is a call out to you, Mom. I know you're in the crowd, and I know you worship our pirate king. I saw you, Mom. I want you to wake the fuck up. I'm so fucking scared. Mom, please help me. Thank you for watching the video fully. Please hit the like and subscribe button, since I could not make these videos without your support, and it means the world to me.